On lap 2 of this race, yes, we're going to talk about lap 2 first. There was a crash with Justin Haley and Joey Logano, and I thought to myself, yep, this is it. This is the beginning of a wreck fest at the Indianapolis Road Course. I was wrong. Very wrong, as there were 0 more cautions the rest of the day. And didn't think I'd be saying this today. I thought there was a chance he could win, but I did not think I'd be saying it like this. Michael McDowell dominated and won at the Indianapolis Road Course. That's right, Michael McDowell got his first career win 2 years ago in the 2021 Daytona 500, has always been a really good road course racer, has been up front, contended for wins every once in a while, top 5, top 10s, but today it all came together, and when he needed it most, he gets the win. McDowell entered this race only 3 points behind the cutoff line in the playoffs, and it was a very real possibility that he could be in the playoffs on points by the end of the regular season here in a few weeks at Daytona. But no, you want to go for the win. You want to try to get that win so you don't have to worry about the points. And McDowell and team did just that, but it was not easy. The two guys Michael McDowell raced for the win the majority of the race were Daniel Suarez and Chase Elliott. Suarez entered this race 5 points behind the cutoff line. Elliott was like 55 points. So Elliott was essentially in a must-win scenario. So you knew that Elliott, second place didn't mean anything, and he ended up getting second place, so it didn't mean anything. But Suarez and McDowell, if they end up finishing second, third to a Kyle Busch maybe, then it's a matter of points battle. But at the same time, as I said, they didn't want a points race. They had fast cars, top 3 cars, winning cars. This was their opportunity to win. This was their opportunity to get into the playoffs, and McDowell ended up being the one doing it. Michael McDowell, Front Row Motorsports. What a year they've had. Just days after McDowell announces, or Front Row announces that McDowell and Todd Gilliland are coming back to Front Row in 2024, Michael McDowell goes out and does this, just obliterates the field. But seriously, Michael McDowell, he's had a really good year. He's had a really good 2 years, honestly. Last year, he had a career high in top 10s, I think. He had 2 top 5s on the season, had an outstanding season. It was a career year. And then this year, he's been backing it up. He's still getting top 10s and top 5s, and this is all with a new crew chief. Blake Harris left for Hendrick Motorsports to crew chief the 48 car, and then in came Travis Peterson, and they've won. Their first season together, they've got themselves a race win. They were on the verge, or they had a very strong possibility of pointing their way into the playoffs. McDowell, his best tracks are road courses and super speedways. And this morning, everyone was thinking McDowell has a legit shot at making the playoffs, even if he doesn't win. That talk's not happening anymore. Michael McDowell is in the playoffs because he won this race. A lot of people are going to give him crap. A lot of people are going to give put Stenhouse in this conversation too. They're going to say, oh, fluke win, or oh, they are only good at one type of track, and they won. Both these guys are top 16 in points. Even if they didn't have wins right now, they would be in the playoffs on points. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's had an outstanding year. They've been consistent. Top 10s, top 15 speed most of the year. That's why they're top 16 in points. So even without that Daytona 500 win, they're in the playoffs. And Michael McDowell, also extremely consistent. Top 10, top 15 speed as well. And he picks up the win at the Indianapolis Road Course today. Both those guys are very deserving. But today we're focusing on Michael McDowell. McDowell, very deserving of a playoff spot. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, he doesn't deserve it. But he's very well deserved this playoff spot. He has done outstanding this year. That team has done outstanding this year. They're deserving of a playoff spot. I don't care what you say. I'm sorry. I don't. And then there's the guys who lost the race. We talked about who McDowell was fighting for the win. Chase Elliott and Daniel Suarez. Elliott, this is his best run all year. He was top 3 every lap that wasn't a green flag pit cycle, essentially. He started 3rd. He finished 2nd. He did everything he could. I genuinely just think McDowell was better today. There were parts of the day where it looked like Elliott was better than Suarez and McDowell, but just couldn't get around him, couldn't pass them and then run away. But then those last couple of runs, McDowell was just better. They had the fastest car. McDowell was doing a better job, it seemed like. And Elliott couldn't catch up. He was about 2.5 seconds back for the last 25 laps. But then the last lap, he freaking went insane and cut the lead to like 0.8, 0.7 of a second. That last lap, I think it was a mixture of Elliott just pushing it as hard as possible and McDowell being extremely conservative just to not miss a turn, lock up, or, shortcut a chicane or something, just being as careful as possible. But he tried, and unfortunately, I think mathematically now it might be a must-win scenario for Elliott. Elliott came into this race 55 below the cutoff line, and he essentially had to win. He scored a lot of stage points today. He finished second in the race, but because McDowell wins, because McDowell jumps up in that playoff standings, Bubba Wallace is now next in line for the point situation. That is a whole bigger gap. So now Elliott's like 90 or 100 back. So it's essentially, I think it maybe even is mathematically a must-win for Chase Elliott at Watkins Glen and Daytona. But Watkins Glen is one of his best tracks. If they bring another road course car with speed next week, a track that Elliott has 2 wins at, it's possible. But they have to win. They can't settle for second. And then Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez could have been in control of this race. He led a good chunk of laps in that first stage, got passed by McDowell. Then the pit cycle happened, and they ended up coming out in front of McDowell because he won the pole, because he had that first pit stall. And then it got a little messy at the end of stage 2. Denny Hamlin ended up winning the stage. Hamlin and Keselowski stayed out as long as they could, trying to get stage points, trying to make sure that they could get themselves either a playoff point or, in Keselowski's point situation, regular season points to point themselves into the playoffs. And Suarez, McDowell, and Elliott caught them at a bad time. Well, for Suarez, it was a bad time. Suarez tried to make some moves that didn't work out. Keselowski missed the turn a little bit because he was trying to bump and run Hamlin for the stage win. That compromised Suarez, and then McDowell and Elliott got by Suarez. And so Suarez ended up falling back to third. By the end of the run, I think Suarez was back up to second ahead of Elliott. And then here is what happened. Daniel Suarez had an extremely heartbreaking pit stop. He was a second and a half behind McDowell, and, that's a very realistic gap to make up. And Suarez went into his pit box. It all seemed fine. And then all of a sudden, McDowell's out. Elliott's out of pit road. Suarez is still sitting there. Why? You don't hear this one a lot. When they throw the gun, the rope for the gun that takes off the lug nut so you can take the wheel off the car, they throw it around and throw it up so that it can go out so the car doesn't land on top of it, because if you run it over, it's a penalty. If you land on top of it, it's bad. Unfortunately, when it was thrown, the way the rope went in the air, it caught at a weird angle, or it whipped at a weird angle and came back under the car. Suarez parked on top of it. So when the front changer went around to the right side of the car to change the tires, he couldn't. They had to go back around to the left side of the car, jack it back up, get the wheel switcher, the tire gun, whatever it's officially called. They had to go back, redo it, get the rope out, go back around to the other side. It was like a 25-second pit stop, and they lost all that time and were way behind McDowell and Elliott, and that was it. Third place. That's what it wrote for them. So then we had the international drivers. Well, the part-time international drivers, of course, Daniel Suarez from Mexico. He is an international driver. But Shane van Gisbergen ended up finishing in the top 10, 2 for 2 in terms of top 10s. His 100% winning streak is over. We'll talk about these guys more in detail when we go through the finishing results. Brodie Kostecki, 22nd. Mike Rockenfeller, 24th. Very respectable. And then Jenson Button in 28th. Kamui Kobayashi in 33rd. As I said, we will talk about them more in detail when we go through the finishing results, if my chair would roll here. So, finishing results of this race. Michael McDowell, what a win for him. What a win for Front Row. First win came back in 2013, I think, with David Reagan at Talladega. Second one came in 2016 at Pocono with Chris Buescher. 2021, they won the Daytona 500 with McDowell, and today they won with McDowell. They've had an outstanding year. They have the potential to point themselves into the playoffs, as I've said already, and they won. Even if they finished second in this race, but then Elliott would have won, and then there's all that complication. But the fact of the matter is, Michael McDowell won his way into the playoffs, and it was on pure speed. You could argue that Daytona 500 was a fluke. The field right in front of him. You know, it's a super speedway. Anything can happen. Michael McDowell led 54 of the 82 laps today. He won a stage. He was up front all day long. Started fourth. Was in the top three probably 95% of this race. Okay, maybe a little bit less because of the different pit strategies. But McDowell was the best car today. He deserved that win. He deserves this playoff spot. So a lot of people are going to hate on McDowell, but you know what? Tough. He's in the playoffs. Deal with it. Chase Elliott, second. As I said, second place doesn't mean anything for that team right now. They need a win. It's got to come at Watkins Glen or Daytona, or they are going to miss the playoffs. Elliott has never missed the playoffs in his career, so that would be a big deal for him. But missing those 7 races, of course, has hurt him. Physically, yes. And, of course, points-wise, too. But Chase Elliott got to win. Checkers or wreckers the next 2 races, I guess. Third place, Daniel Suarez, as I said, heartbreaking. Started first, led a few laps, was up in the top 3 all day long, but that bad pit stop ended up costing them. And I really don't think what they showed in the replays, what they talked about, I don't think there was much either side could do, whether it was the pit crew or Suarez. It was just bad timing. Tyler Reddick finishes 4th, really good road course racer, the defending driver winner of this race. Of course, he won it with the 8 car last year at RCR. 5th place, Alex Bowman, really good run for him, but he's kind of in a must-win situation too. So, you know, tough. But I will say, this is Alex Bowman's first top 10 back since injury, so they needed something to go their way. They were running top 5 at Pocono. They were running well at, was it Richmond or Michigan? It was Michigan, and they crashed. So to finally have a good run come together and have the result for it, they've got to be happy with that. 6th place, Chase Briscoe. Really good run for him in SHR, his home race. Really good race for him. He almost won this race a couple of years ago. Seems to be a track he enjoys, but good result for him. Martin Truex Jr. finishes 7th, strengthening his grip on the regular season championship. He might be able to clinch that next week at Watkins Glen. 8th place, Kyle Larson was running top 5 before he just completely missed the last chicane, had to do a stop and go and fell back to about 8th through 10th, and he finished there. 9th place, Christopher Bell. 10th place, Shane van Gisbergen. Those 4 guys right there, Truex through SVG, all had a really great battle at one point in this race. It was really fun to watch. But SVG, great to see him back in NASCAR, trying to make a full-time deal, trying to do something in NASCAR full-time. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, I know he had a lot of high expectations going into this race. After that win at Chicago, everyone's like, oh, he's got to win now. He's got to do great. I personally, in my opinion, I think a top 10 in your second career Cup start is extremely respectable, even if you won your first race. Yeah, sure. There are going to be some people who were disappointed with the 10th place result for SVG. I think it's still very respectable. Top 10s in both of your starts, it gives you a good idea because, once again, this track, all the Cup regulars, they know. They've been on this track before. SVG, he hadn't. And so this kind of evened out the playing field a little bit compared to Chicago, but a top 10, very respectable. Chris Buescher's win streak is snapped. He finishes 11th, and his top 10 streak at road courses is snapped. I think he had 8 straight. Ty Gibbs is 12th. He's in a bad point situation now with that McDowell winning, with Suarez getting a lot of points. 13th, Ryan Blaney. AJ Allmendinger threatened to intentionally wreck him. 14th, William Byron started last, had to do a pass-through penalty, didn't have his pit stall selection, didn't have his car chief, rallied for a top 15. Honestly, not bad. 15th, Austin Cindric. 16th, Austin Dillon. 17th, Ross Chastain. 18th, Bubba Wallace. I think I said last week, if there were no new winners, all Bubba Wallace had to do at these road courses, which he is not good at, top 20. He did that top 20 part. The other thing was out of his control, and that's a new winner. He loses half of the points that he had on the cutoff line because of McDowell's win. We'll talk about that later. 19th, Denny Hamlin. 20th, Brad Keselowski. 21st, Harrison Burton. 22nd, Brodie Kostecki in his NASCAR Cup Series debut, the Supercars points leader. Crashed in qualifying. He qualified 11th, had some good speed, but crashed in qualifying, and unfortunately had to go to a backup car, and that just kind of compromised their day. Kostecki didn't have a lot of practice time due to some mechanical problems. So really, it's an impressive debut weekend considering all that, is what I'll say. I think he could have done better if, he kept the car clean in qualifying, if they don't have that mechanical problem. If they started in 11th, I think they would have had a much more impressive day results-wise. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he would have won, but I think a top 10 could have been in the works. 23rd, Kevin Harvick, his last trip to Indianapolis, a track that he loves. And he said over his press conference that he broke some ribs in Italy just super nonchalantly. He was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I broke some ribs falling down the stairs in Italy, blah, blah, blah. And everyone in the media room's like, wait, what just happened? Did he just say he broke his ribs? Or maybe I think he said messed up or, I can't remember. He didn't say broke, but he said messed up his ribs, something like that. 24th, Mike Rockenfeller in the 42 car this week and next week after Noah Gragson was suspended, and then they ended up parting ways. What was the official requested or release? Rockenfeller, a good result considering how bad the 42 has been this week, or this year, sorry. So 24th for that car. Very good day. Great job by Mike Rockenfeller, the 24-hour Le Mans winner. And of course, he drove the 24-hour Le Mans car for NASCAR. Great result for him. 25th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. attempted to obliterate two international drivers, Jenson and Kamui Kobayashi. He had actually successfully wiped them out for a second, and then Jenson got some revenge, so that was fun. 26th, AJ Allmendinger. Talk about a disappointment. Allmendinger's a great road course racer, and they sucked this weekend. Yeah, they got spun out by Blaney. That set them back, but they qualified like 26th. They sucked. AJ Allmendinger won this race 2 years ago. He's known for his road course racing. Nowhere to be seen today. Now they're in a must-win situation. Disappointing. 27th, Ty Dillon. Not bad, Ty Dillon, not bad. 28th, Jenson Button, the 2009 Formula One champion. I think this is his last start of the season, but he did a swell job in the Rick Ware car. 29th, Corey LaJoie. 30th, Andy Lally in his race with Rick Ware Racing. Of course, he is going to run the remaining road courses this year. That was announced back in, June? So he's got one more race this year at the Charlotte Roval. 31st, Ryan Preece. 32nd, Josh Bilicki. 33rd, Kamui Kobayashi. I feel like there was a lot of expectations with Kamui. There was that test they did and, the simulator work, and there was a lot of people saying that he did really good in that. And a lot of people had high expectations for him. It's a disappointing weekend. If, just from all the hype and stuff, people saying like, oh, Dale Jr., I think it was, said that, oh, he did really good in the sim. His test went really well. Like, he should be up in the top 10. I know he's a world-class driver. He's done a lot of endurance racing. He used to race in F1. He is a really good driver. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, with all the hype and talk around it, he ended up finishing 33rd. It's a little bit disappointing, but it still is his first career NASCAR Cup Series start. So, you got to give him a break. But he definitely got an introduction to NASCAR. He got spun out 3 times. So it was not all his fault why he finished 33rd. As I said, Stenhouse took him out once. Someone else took him out. I think Rockenfeller maybe, and then a couple other guys. But just a not great finish for Kamui. 34th, Joey Logano. Oh my goodness. Joey Logano wanted to kill someone the first 5 laps of this race. Lap 2, the one caution that happened, Joey Logano decided to go side by side with Justin Haley through that back stretch chicane because he thought it was lap 82 for the win, and forced Haley into the grass. Haley wrecks. Then on the lap 5, 6, restart, whatever lap that was, Joey Logano did that thing where he attempts to win the race from 20th, and he wrecked his teammate and wrecked a few other people, made SVG dump Ty Gibbs, and Joey Logano at the Indianapolis Road Course just never needs to happen again. He's a champion, yes, but he has been famous for what he does at the Indianapolis Road Course for all the wrong reasons. 35th, Eric Jones. 36th, Kyle Busch had top 5 speed, but then a valve spring broke, I think, and they were just awful after that. Then he started locking up the tires, and he had to pit for new tires, and what looked like a promising day ended up being awful. The defending car winner of this race. Todd Gilliland wrecked, and there was no caution, but he wrecked. Sad. Justin Haley, as I said, he got wrecked by Joey Logano. 39th, Eric Almirola. He had a mechanical failure. He was parked next to the 34 pit stall as they're celebrating, and his car's just dead. Here is your playoff grid. Those top 13 all have wins. They are locked into the playoffs. That means 3 spots remaining, 2 races left, Watkins Glen and Daytona. No one locked themselves in on points. That could happen next week, though, depending on what happens. But if we do get 2 new winners, let's say Chase Elliott wins next week, and let's say Austin Dillon does what he did last year, that means the final playoff spot would come down to Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski, I think. Harvick and Keselowski are separated by 2 points, but if we get a repeat winner next week, they are well above the rest of the field. And then Bubba Wallace, who was 58 points entering this race, above the cutoff line, is now only 28 points, and he's got to survive another road course and a super speedway. He is a good super speedway racer, but that road course next week will be rough. Daniel Suarez, after making up 35 points last week at Michigan, ran top 3 all day today, scored a ton of stage points, finished 3rd. Because Michael McDowell won, he goes from 5 below to 28 below the cutoff line. So really a disaster for Daniel Suarez, and he did nothing wrong. I mean, that pit stop went wrong, but like, they didn't wreck. They didn't have a mechanical failure. They didn't run poor like they did at Richmond. They ran top 3 the whole day. Now he's 28 points out. Ty Gibbs, 49 points out. Chase Elliott, 80 points out. Alex Bowman, 80 points out. I'm going to say everyone from Gibbs on down must win. So 2 more races for the playoffs to be sorted out. That field, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be thrilling, and we will see what ends up happening. Once the full point standings are released, I will come back with my championship series, the Why Your Driver Will Win the Championship this year. We've done 3 already. Go check out the playlist if you haven't. I'll upload the schedule or put the upload schedule in the community post tomorrow morning. And then I'll start, rolling them out starting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All 5 days, you're going to get one. So it'll be exciting. We had a lot of fun drivers in the field today. We had a fun race, honestly. This was the best Indianapolis Road Course race, and it's not really close. The first 2 were crap fest. They were wreck fest. They were ugly. But today was clean. There was a lot of different strategies, which was really fun. We saw some good racing going on. As I said, that 4-car battle with Truex, Bell, Larson, SVG. So there was some good racing throughout the field. It wasn't the greatest race ever, but the strategies made it fun, I would say. So good to see a clean race at the Indianapolis Road Course, but I'm not going to say that I'm going to miss this track. It's good that they're going back to the Oval, but we'll discuss that at a later date. This video has been going on long enough. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you guys at least tomorrow for the championship case series again.